Hello, everyone, from the Mount Morris Digital Studio here in Fresno, California. This is the Beem and Dean Show, episode 68 on this rainy Monday here in Fresno, with the sports director of KC24, CBS 47, and the voice of the FCC Rams, Scott Bemis. I'm Dean Shiro. Scotty, crazy weekend?
Well, in case you're wondering, no, I'm not in a sauna over here.
Yeah,
Dean.
we're having some camera issues there, but
yeah, that's right. But it gives me a nice little shine right off the top of my head here.
Yeah, it's like the sun hopefully will come out soon, right? So
yeah, I mean, good weekend, busy weekend like always. Spent 6 hours in the rain on Saturday night covering a college football game. That was kind of interesting. Had about 3 or 4 layers on. Kept dry. I thought I handled it well, all things considered.
Yeah. Fresno State gets a nice win at home against Wyoming in the rain. What, 24-3? Defense looked good. Offense still question mark.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's a win. A win's a win. Coaches always say they celebrate the wins, and it was just kind of a dreary night all the way around, right? Not necessarily the way the Dogs performed, but just, there wasn't a good crowd there. It was, by halftime, a lot of people had left. I mean, you saw who the real diehards were when it came to the Bulldog fan base, the ones who stuck it out until the very end. And credit to them, by the way, for doing that, the ones who did stay till the end. But yeah, the Dogs' defense looks dominating. I don't know how much of that is that Wyoming's offense is just bad, or is Fresno State's defense that good? I think it's a combination of both. I think Fresno State has a talented defense. That's definitely one of the better defenses in the conference. We'll see this week, when they get tested a little bit more about how good they really are, in my opinion, because, Utah State coming into Valley Children's Stadium, they got a talented dual threat quarterback, in Bryson Barnes, one of the better offenses in the conference. This is a team that, I think is the second best scoring offense in the Mountain West, averaging over 30 points a game. And so if the Dogs can shut out the Aggies this week, and then it's like, okay, this defense is legit. I mean, already it's trending in that direction.
Another surprising line, 2.5. 2.5.
Is it 2.5? I didn't even look at it. It's
2.5.
Yeah, this one makes a little more sense to me. Last week was a little bit weird, I thought, because Wyoming, they just, as we saw, right? They kind of revert back to being Wyoming, the program that just struggles offensively. I mean, it really didn't even feel like in the second half that they had much of a chance at all of scoring a touchdown in that game. And again, that was a combination of, Fresno State defensively and just really how poor Wyoming looked offensively in that game. I mean, I think this thing is really standing out to me about this Fresno State defense right now is the back two levels. The linebacking group right now, I mean, even without Kavion Thunderbird, at this point, Titus Kajabi steps right in. You put him in there with Jaden Pearson, who has just been a solid player all year long for the Dogs. And then those corners. I mean, we really saw it in this game. I don't think Wyoming really has many receivers that scare you. Right. But, I mean, there was no space for any of those receivers. I mean, every time they tried to throw out wide, AZ, Alzillian Hamilton, he either was getting picks or pass breakups. Yeah. And the other way, too, Jakari Embry was just blanketing his receiver. And so when you're getting corner play like that, very helpful, lets that pass rush kind of come after the, if the Dogs can start getting home a little bit more with only a 4-man rush like Cam Morrell was talking about on Bulldog Insider, then they would really have something here. Yeah,
the quarterback for Wyoming, Anderson, he wasn't super accurate, obviously. But, I mean, playing in the rain, that's got to be tough, obviously. Let's talk about what happened across campus on Saturday night. Vance Wahlberg gets a nice win against a good Utah Valley team. 1-point victory at home. Interesting scheduling, having the football and basketball game at the same time like we talked about. But good for Vance and the team bouncing back after a tough one earlier in the week.
Yeah, you could argue, Dean, this is the biggest win of the Vance Wahlberg era so far. Now, it's not going to make any national headlines.
No.
Even most people in the Valley are probably not even really aware that Utah Valley is a good program. They're the defending regular season WAC champion. They were second in the WAC preseason. Now, the WAC isn't the greatest conference in the world, but at the top, at least last year, before Grand Canyon left the WAC to come to the Mountain West, there was still some decent teams there at the top of that conference. It really falls off, as you go further down the board there. But that's a good win for this program.
They were down, I believe, 9 with about 7 minutes left and came back and got it done.
To be honest, any win is a good win for the program right now, but especially if you beat a team of note. I mean, this is a team that's, not a bottom feeder or anything like that. This is a top probably 100 to 150, program in the country right now. And
Yeah.
so that's a decent win for Fresno State. And Deshaun Gorey, the true freshman who made the shot, that was his only basket of the game, and he makes the 3 at the end.
That's what counts, man. That's the one they're going to look at. So I want to thank my friends over at Sam Houston State. Came through for me.
Sammy H.
I mean, seriously, not only a barking dog, but a barking dog that wins. 10.5-point
That's
dog.
the whole point, Dean. But Dean, you're on fire, my man.
I was trying just to get a cover on that, but and they almost blew that game. Delaware almost came back on them. 2 onside kick returns to get them back into that game. But luckily, 2
onside kick returns for touchdowns?
No, 2 onside kicks that were returned that they got. They were successful getting 2 onside kicks.
They were recovered onside kicks.
Recovered, returned. Okay. Yeah. So they received 2 onside kicks to get from a 14-point deficit to at least have a chance. Speaking of Delaware, but Sam Houston State pulled down the gauntlet for old Dean. Nice dog.
Hey,
so
real
anyway.
quick, where else are you going to get Sam Houston State Delaware breakdowns than right here on the Beem and Dean
Not
show?
even on College Game Day, you're going to find Sam Houston State. That's for sure.
Maybe on Bad Beats.
Maybe on Bad Beats, we'll see.
They had gotten a 3rd onside kick.
Exactly. Yeah. Anyway, let's come on in hot. All right, Scotty, we're going right back to Sunday night. We got Sunday night football, kind of a stinker, but the game became a real stinker with about, 45 seconds left when the officials decided to call pass interference when it looked like Detroit was going to get the ball back again after, again, a more horrible clock management by the Eagles. We're going to talk about horrible clock management in the NFL yesterday. There was quite a bit of that going on. But the Eagles, with a 16-6 lead, at midfield, decided to go for it instead of kick the ball away against a Lions team that couldn't move it. So the Lions get a field goal because of the short field and then almost get a chance, but the pass interference called by the officials. Scotty, I'll let you take it.
I mean, yeah, there was a lot of things that people are going to be talking about from this game. And again, I'm preparing for Bulldog Insider, as these games are going on and doing a lot of writing. And so I'm kind of sort of have it on, but I'm not really like totally locked in on it. But I know that, for example, Dan Campbell went for it 5 times on 4th down. That's a whole nother discussion we can get into, by the way, which I don't mind aggressiveness. Trust me, I'm an aggressive guy when it comes to 4th down, but I think there needs to be a little nuance, a little feel for how your offense is doing against the opponent. But yeah, what I'm coming in hot about today is I think the NFL needs to relook at giving a challenge to teams when it comes to a pass interference call, to a judgment call like pass interference, because that was an egregious call.
Egregious.
I mean,
I agree.
That was one of the worst pass interference calls, considering the time that it happened and what it meant, that I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Isn't it funny when the flag gets thrown, right? Because we can't see the interplay that's going on there on the perimeter between the receiver and the corner. We only see, when we're watching the game live on TV, we only see the pass flying wide, and you're like, oh, well, pass was off target. Maybe there was some holding or something going on. And then you're watching that replay and you're just waiting. You're waiting for something to happen here to show me pass interference. Waiting and waiting. And no, there's nothing there. Nothing there.
Yeah.
And as Chris Collinsworth said, I mean, trust me, it wasn't offensive pass interference either. It was just a normal play. 2 guys just kind of have their hands like this. It happens every single down between a corner and a receiver in the NFL. I mean, if you're going to call that as pass interference, just drop the flag before the play even goes, because there's going to be that on every single play in the NFL. No advantage was gained by either side in that. Yeah, it's just a no call.
Couldn't agree with you more.
Well, they dropped the flag, but look, we've seen bad calls in the NFL.
Yes.
I don't want to make this show all about just ripping bad calls all the time. But where I'm going with it is because of what happened and how it was a little bit clunky. The first year that they tried to institute it.
Yes.
With the challenge system with pass interference. Was it a challenge system where they just reviewed them automatically? I think it was a challenge system, wasn't it?
Yes.
Okay. I think they should get back to this. Now, limit the number of challenges. So you only get 1 for the game or maybe 1 each half. Right? But I think there should be a challenge system. We've seen it work pretty well in the NBA. And I think
that's what I was going to say. That was my point, Scott. They allow you to challenge fouls in the NBA now. Why can't we challenge fouls in National Football League?
I'm with you. And if you limit it and if you make it, if you limit it, then you got to really, in baseball, you got to hang on to that challenge, right? You don't want to use it maybe too early.
In the first quarter.
Yeah. No, so if you use it in the first quarter on something, then it's on you later if you don't have the challenge available if there's a bad call that goes against you, right?
Yeah.
But if you give each coaching staff 1 challenge, these type of calls here, because like you said, first off, it could have resulted in, determining the outcome of a game.
Could have.
I mean, I don't know.
Unlikely.
I don't know if the Lions are going to go the length of the field and score there with the way their offense was looking.
They were dreadful.
But more than anything, it's just from an entertainment value. When you're watching at home and you see this happen, I mean, I was getting kind of excited about the last minute and a half there and what the Lions were going to be able to do with it. At least we had a last minute drive. But yeah, I mean, I just think the NFL kind of gave up on that a little too quickly. There was a little too much pushback, blowback right away. They should look at that again, kind of one challenge or maybe one challenge each half that you can challenge something like pass interference.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I agree. It was a completely egregious call. Do I think the Lions win the game? Should the Lions have been in a position to win the game? Absolutely not. It should have still been 16-6 at that point, but it wasn't. So that's what happened. So let's get to one other topic real quick. You brought this one up as well. And, we're getting closer now. We're in the middle of November and we're in Heisman campaign talk. So Texas Tech is having a great season, and their middle linebacker, Jacob Rodriguez, is having an exceptional season as well. But Texas Tech now is trying their best to do their Travis Hunter impression. Jacob Rodriguez carried for a touchdown this last weekend. He's doing the stance, doing the dance, the pose, the whole 9 yards. Should a defensive player win the Heisman, or should just the best football player in the country, who might be a defensive player, win the Heisman? What's your take?
Well, I was just looking at it, and it gets kind of comical, after a while, Dean, that the lengths you have to go to as a program like Texas Tech or anybody who's got a star defensive player to try to get them in the conversation. First, you got their head coach, the week before, stumping at the mic after the game saying he's the best player in the country. Now, I'm not necessarily, disagreeing with him. He sounds like he's a great player.
He is a great player.
Great middle linebacker.
He is a great player.
14 tackles, like a fumble recovery. I think he had a pick against BYU a couple weeks ago.
This is not the first year he's done this. He did this last year as well.
And Texas Tech is a legit, national title contender at this point.
Yep.
But it's just it's comedy, right, Dean? So we got to start giving them the ball offensively. We got to start lining them up at quarterback, just to get people talking about it. And you go look at those Heisman odds today. I think it is kind of ridiculous, right? That literally there's 14 guys listed on DraftKings, and every single one of them is an offensive player.
Wow.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, it seems kind of funny. There's got to be a defensive player somewhere that is more meaningful than, the 14th guy listed on the board.
Sure.
Right? I don't know. I mean, it's just, I feel like sometimes they get overlooked. And if it really is going to go to the most outstanding player, that's what it technically does. That's the definition.
That's the definition.
Right? So if you are an incredible linebacker, and you're that, I think it always should be compared to kind of your peer group.
Yeah.
Now, it's going to be hard as a linebacker to win a Heisman, to be perfectly honest, because it's really tough to quantify how big of an impact they have, on the game, or to even to win it under that scenario.
Okay, fair enough.
But it's sad that the Heisman really goes to one of the best players on one of the most high-profile teams, who plays on national television a lot, who has some kind of moment at the end of the year. That's the kind of the way I describe it, right? It really doesn't go to the... I mean, if Julian Sayin wins the Heisman, and to be perfectly honest, Ohio State seems to blow out everybody every week.
Yeah.
I don't really watch a ton of Ohio State football.
Yeah.
I watched a little bit, some of that Texas game early in the year. Julian, it looked good for a guy making his first start.
Yeah.
But I didn't think, this is a Heisman candidate here. I mean, Ohio State's going to put up 30 no matter who's playing quarterback when they go play at Purdue or Rutgers. Watch, Rutgers will step up and beat them this week.
But they handled UCLA with their backup quarterback.
But you know what? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Julian Sayin is the second choice for the Heisman.
No, I agree with you.
Is he really the best player in the country?
I agree with you. And I think that Jacob Rodriguez should at least, at minimum, get a trip to New York to be one of the 5 finalists.
And you've brought up Haynes King, right?
Love Haynes King. But again, I don't think he's going to get any love either. So, but yeah, with Jacob Rodriguez, though, this isn't the first year he's done it. He did this last year as well. He's a really, really good player on a really good team. And I'm sure if you ask him, he's more concerned about making sure his team gets to the playoff than him winning the Heisman. But, his coach, Joey McGuire, is doing a great job trying to get his name out there, trying to get everything going on there. And we'll see what happens. I remember in 1994 when Rashawn Salaam won the Heisman Trophy, one of the 4 finalists was a defensive player. It was Warren Sapp, defensive lineman, Miami.
Yeah,
so,
and there has been a defensive player to win the Heisman.
Right. No, I'm just saying, though, just saying as a finalist, he deserves to be there. It's happened before. Everyone knew Warren Sapp wasn't winning the Heisman that year, but he still got a trip. So
yeah, and there may be another defensive player out there, by the way, too, that might even be more deserving than Jacob Rodriguez.
Maybe.
I don't know.
But
it's just kind of silly that they're not even considered for the award.
Okay, let's just go over some of these college football games that happened around the country this weekend. OU now a true contender. Nice win in Tuscaloosa against Kalen's boys. Georgia, 9-1 Georgia. My man Scott Beem is here.
I can't pick a game to save my life.
But he had a nice play
but
on
every
Georgia.
time that I talk about value bets on the futures board, I seem to be doing okay.
Yeah, you're doing very well for yourself.
I can't pick a game, guys. You're
doing very well for yourself, though, on the futures board. Maybe that's where we have to have a special category for futures moving forward. Notre Dame pretty much solidifies their slot for the college football playoff with that nice win at Pittsburgh. They have two pretty much cupcake games towards the end. If they stumble there, they don't deserve to be in. How about James Madison now possibly to the CFP? Question mark. We'll see. 9-1. They have Washington State this weekend coming in. And then they have Coastal Carolina to wrap it up. And then obviously their conference championship game. But with South Florida losing again, that really opens up that spot for the at-large team. We'll see what happens there. Texas A&M come back for the ages, down 31-7 at the half or 30-7, end up winning that game. What else caught your eye on Saturday? I know you were busy, but college football.
Well, how about my Trojans? They stay alive. They stay alive for another week.
Speaking of comebacks,
yeah, and I kind of like it, that they beat a big, supposedly physical, superior team. And Iowa was right in that football game and probably controlling it for 2.5 quarters.
I was shocked that they jumped out to that lead. I was shocked. I was not expecting that.
But it's good to see. I mean, it's good to see because, I think some of these Big Ten people, like to think that these West Coast teams, are going to come into their conference and they're just going to get, destroyed by the big bad Big Ten. Well, how many Rose Bowls have we seen where, the old Pac-10 or the old Pac-12 has just, dominated Big Ten teams? Not that they're going to go in and start rolling over Ohio State, or win the conference every year. But there's no doubt about it that the likes of Oregon and USC and even Washington some years, and I'm sure UCLA, it's cyclical. At some point, they will reemerge, in the Big Ten. USC, I like having USC in the conversation, not only just because I'm a Trojan, but because,
it's good for college football.
And they have a fun offense. They have an exciting offense. And, it may all come to an end this week because they're going to Oregon.
Yes.
But you never know.
But that's the game that USC fans have been waiting for. A meaningful game in the middle of November. How long has it been? So this is a huge game for Lincoln Riley, though. Huge game. I mean,
no, I agree.
8-2 or whatever. I think they're 8-2. So this is a huge game for the USC Trojan family.
And you saw it at the end of that Iowa game. I mean, Lincoln Riley's showing some real emotion on that sideline that you haven't really seen from him before, as far as celebrating the win. I mean, I think you can feel the pressure that he's feeling, to try to get SC into the playoffs.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm sure there is pressure. What is this, year 3 or 4 for Lincoln? So anyway, all right, so that's college football. Now we go to pro real quick. Rams survive horrible clock management. Denver knocks off Kansas City. Josh Allen goes off, 6 touchdowns total. Brock Purdy and the Niners are back, and Shedeur Sanders gets his debut. Not so great. But anyway, let's start from the beginning. Speaking of bad clock management, the Los Angeles Rams, a 10-point lead. They have a huge lead. Again, another team going for it on 4th down, not kicking the ball. Your thoughts?
Well, I can't really speak specifically to the Rams things, although I did see some highlights. I didn't see how it played out necessarily at the very end there. But I will say in general, and I'm going to use the Lions as the example with Dan Campbell. And like I said, I always want to put the disclaimer out there. I love aggressive coaches. I love, going for it on 4th down, especially when you're in plus territory, if it is manageable and it is the right decision, right? Sometimes you got to have a feel for how the game's going. Now, in the Lions case, the parts that I saw from that game and then seeing some of the video later, I mean, it looked like typical Jared Goff in cold weather. He looked like a fish out of water. It looked like it was a real struggle for the Lions.
Yeah.
Start taking some points. This game is playing out as a low-scoring game. You got to kind of have a feel for how it's playing out. If you're playing the Commanders and you're putting up 40 or whatever, go for it every time on 4th and 5 or less when you're in their territory because you're probably going to pick it up 70 or 80% of the time.
Right.
In that environment in Philly with a quarterback who's struggling, cold weather, all that stuff, you're probably only going to pick up, on average, your conversion rate's going to go way down. So have a feel for how the game's going. Don't just follow the analytics blindly. We say this about Dave Roberts and baseball managers sometimes,
yes,
right?
Yes.
You know, you got to have a feel for things and kind of change it up. You know, to me, that was a time last night to change up. And really, I think the Lions wasted a really good effort from their defense in that game.
They did. So I remember vividly now the Rams sequence. Basically, so they Seattle had one timeout left.
Okay.
And the Rams were inside the 2-minute warning. And instead, I believe it was down to like a minute 30 or minute 20. And instead of running the ball on third down, they threw for it and threw incomplete. Luckily, their punter punted the ball down to the 1.
I did see that punt.
That was great. And then Seattle drove up the field in just enough time to give their kicker a chance for a 61-yarder, I believe it was, or 59. And he hooked it right. But just, again, another instance of bad clock management. Denver at home, right? Denver at home, complete different beast.
Well, let's talk about the Chiefs. I mean, I think the Chiefs are almost the bigger story than the Broncos.
Really?
Right?
You think so?
Well, in the sense of, I mean, this team's on the outside looking in right now,
Right.
Dean.
Right.
And the schedule isn't exactly that easy down the stretch.
Right.
I still think they'll find their way into the playoffs. I mean, I've been on this show saying that I thought the Chiefs had kind of found something about a month ago, but suddenly it's you know, sort of not working like I thought it would at this point, and they've lost a couple tight games here.
Yeah.
You know, the schedule's been difficult. I think one problem is Scott Beem has picked them, and so like if I pick them in a game, like Patrick, there's been about 99 times where Patrick Mahomes had the ball, you know, with a tie game, needing a field goal to win it. And probably about 97 of the times they've won the game. And then went out the one time where he does have the ball with about 2 minutes left of the clock, needing a field goal only in a tie game to win it, and I would cover in that scenario.
Yes, we'll show that in a minute. Yeah.
He goes 3 and out.
Scotty had the Chiefs minus 2.5. Yeah, we'll show it in a second. But that was a tough one. But nice win for the Broncos. Josh Allen, 3 rushing, 3 passing touchdowns. Just another day at the office for the old boy, number 17.
You know, it's funny. You know, I was talking with. You know, we should have Dylan Morgan on here because he's got some interesting thoughts on Josh Allen.
Yeah.
Like, you know, he thinks he's still got a lot to prove basically at this point, right? You know, and
Agreed.
I will say that he hasn't won the big game yet,
Right.
but
Hasn't been to the big game yet.
he hasn't. But there have been times where I think the Bills lost not because of Josh Allen.
Agreed, but he's the face of the
No,
organization.
he is, and that will be with him for a long time. And I think he was referencing that play like in the first half, right? Didn't he have some awful turnover where you know,
he had a couple really bad ones. Yeah.
But having said that, Patrick Mahomes had a really bad turnover in the second half of the Chiefs game. It's just you can pick and choose what you want to pull out of it, right? I mean, look, if I'm a defensive coordinator, the thought of facing Josh Allen, I mean, that's going to keep me up at night.
Oh,
I mean,
absolutely.
The guy's 200 and what? 60, 50 pounds or something
like that. He seems like it. He runs like it.
That running play at the goal line where he hits the DB, and poor Antoine Winfield, right? He went backwards and into the end zone. I mean, it's like a fullback coming at you.
No, seriously.
It's crazy. And, I mean, he is just such a weapon, but until he wins that world championship, there's going to be naysayers, you know, and I was in a conversation with Dylan yesterday about it, you know, so I don't know what to say other than the Bills and the Chiefs. It's some interesting players this year in the AFC, right?
Brock Purdy comes back for the Niners and all's forgiven. I mean, the defense all of a sudden shows up, even though Brock Purdy's not a defensive player. He's throwing the ball. Christian McCaffrey's running the ball, catching the ball. George Kittle's catching touchdown passes. What's your thoughts on the Niners? Are they back?
No, I don't think I'd be willing to
go that far, huh?
Go back. But if they get everybody healthy, again, obviously it's a different team.
Right.
You know, there's still, though, you know, Fred Warner's not coming back. You know, Bosa's not coming back, right? And so that's
a
gonna
big
hurt
deal
them
right
when
there.
when they're going to go up against really good teams. But you know, sometimes I think Brock Purdy a little underappreciated, right? And we love to hammer into Brock Purdy.
How long did it take him to get a contract, for God's sakes?
And I think he's a victim of his own contract.
He was.
Yeah. Well, in the sense of, remember, Brock Purdy was a 7th-round pick. He's
Mr. Irrelevant.
He's the last pick in the NFL draft.
Yep.
So if you base his expectation and what he's done off of that, he is the most incredible success story there ever was. He's a Tom Brady.
Ever.
Right? But
bigger.
Now you're comparing him to what he signed for with the contract.
Right.
So now you're linking him in with
Good
you know
point.
the Mahomes and the Allens and all those guys.
Good point.
And so now the expectation level has totally changed for him.
Right.
So I mean, that turf toe thing's a weird deal,
It
right?
is,
And Yeah, I mean, I root for Brock Purdy just because of, being a 7th-round pick and all that stuff. I know it's hard for me as a former Rams fan to root for the Niners, so I'm going to root for Brock Purdy individually, but I'm still going to root for our Niners.
Yeah, fair.
I'm taking them in now. They're my Niners too. I'm my Rams too now.
I love it. You're adopted as well. Let's get to the biggest story of the NFL weekend. It wasn't any of these. It was a quarterback trotting out for the Cleveland Browns, a 5th-round pick. Shedeur Sanders makes his debut after Dylan Gabriel has the concussion. 4 of 16, 47 yards in the debut. Sacked, I believe, 3 times, 1 interception.
What did you think of his post game, by the way?
I thought it was good.
You did? Okay, I only saw one.
I thought it was really, really good because honestly, that's not typical Shedeur there. He accepted responsibility. He called it what it was. He stood up for Dylan Gabriel and said, you know, I love that the fans adore me and give me love, but it's a little uncomfortable and it's not fair to Dylan when he's out there. So he did say that, which I really thought was good. I think this is kind of on Stefanski, not giving him first team reps, at least a couple. You know, he's seeing game bullets for the first time, and then he doesn't even get to see game bullets in practice. Now, maybe this week he will, but Stefanski is not giving him any time. Would he have performed better? That Ravens defense is so good. They were blitzing him every down. He almost had a touchdown pass. He almost got him back at the end. The guy dropped the ball, but your thoughts?
It's crazy with the Ravens defense, for example, how bad they look when all those guys. It shows you, when you lose players, we just discount it. You know, we health is such a big thing in the NFL.
Huge,
I mean, the Ravens look like one of the worst defenses in the NFL.
Right.
They get guys back. They get Kyle Hamilton back. Suddenly, they're one of the better defenses in the league suddenly, with all their guys back. I mean, health is such a big thing in the NFL.
It is.
Sometimes that we just, we don't appreciate it. And I think it's because of fantasy football too.
I was just going to say that
guys
just
and
like your fantasy football lineups, health is everything.
Yeah, no, I absolutely. I mean, as far as Shedeur goes, I'm not going to judge him too harshly.
No, I'm not either.
On that.
I was just being sarcastic about biggest story of the weekend.
I mean,
although everyone led with it.
No, for sure. And I only saw one soundbite, whatever ESPN chose to use, and it was fine. But it was kind of a weird.
You had to watch the whole press conference.
Yeah, it was kind of a weird soundbite. So I'm glad that you gave context.
He spoke for 9 minutes, and a lot of it was good. Of course, they picked the one, just like they do with Prime. So anyway, let's get to our money plays. All right, Scotty, we're about halfway through November. Scotty threw his first bullets out here this last week, and it wasn't great, but it wasn't horrible. He went 1 for 5. I mean, that's 20%. He had some bad luck. I mean, he hit Fresno State perfectly, but then Cincinnati loses at home to Arizona. Who saw that coming? New Mexico struggles with Colorado State, but Scotty would have gotten that one on a money line. But then San Jose State not only just loses to Nevada, they get absolutely crushed by Nevada. And Ole Miss beats Florida. So it wasn't horrible. And then Air Force lost by 10 as opposed to 7. And the Chiefs, So go ahead, your take real quick.
Well, Air Force, it's just kind of been the story of my season, kind of like me over here going up in a cloud of smoke over here on the camera. So are my picks here in recent weeks. But Air Force dominated the first half in that game against UConn and actually trailed at the half. And that's just kind of been the story of my year. And so, UConn ends up getting there. The Giants, I'm gonna hang my hat on my one winner there. I wasn't, like you said, I wasn't that bad on the money liners.
You were close.
It's just Cincinnati's a weird team. They are. Every time that I have them, they look horrible. Yeah. Every time I don't, they look fantastic. By the way, Arizona looks pretty good too. I mean, having watched that game, I guess I'm a prisoner of the moment. But
I think Cincy's hosting BYU this weekend, if I'm not mistaken, too. So they have another home game here. So all right, but like my man, coming out of the smoke, rising from the ashes. Here is tonight's play. Go for it.
All right, I gotta have something going here because I gotta try to get this thing back over $1,000 where we started here. So I'm gonna take the Raiders under. I know the Cowboys can score, but I figure, hey, the Cowboys just got Quinnen Williams. The Raiders' offense has been pathetic at times this season. So I'm just going to go under 49.5, which seems like a pretty big number to me.
Went 4 for 9, not too bad. Hit a couple parlays. I got my total up to 919 from 870. I took the lead over Scott. And then this week I have 5 plays because there's not a lot going on. Give me the Raiders. I bought it up to 7.5 tonight against Dallas. And then I took a couple basketballs, the 76ers and Toronto. Toronto. I've got a money line parlay NHL. I've got a spread parlay NBA. I've got a play on tomorrow night. 2 big games. You've got Michigan State, Kansas. Bought those all up to 9.5.
Those neutral site games.
Those are neutral sites. Yeah.
I
forgot
like
which
that,
tournament
Tina.
it is.
I might follow you on that because those games are usually tight on those neutral sites. By the way, I'm going to add one college basketball play tonight.
Add it in.
VCU plus 11.5
There you go.
at NC
I like that
State.
one.
VCU preseason the pick in the A10.
All right.
Played Utah State tight.
Okay.
NC State's been good this year, but they haven't seen a team like VCU yet.
Scotty and I will be back on Thursday. We'll have more picks. This has been the Beam and Dean Show.